Hey all, it's Josh with Battlebond here. So we're coming up to our third and final game at our doubles MESBG tournament. So to give a quick recap, our first game didn't go so well. We had a pretty major loss. Second game went our way and we ended up with a minor win. So now we're going into the third game. And we have some pretty high hopes for this one. So going into this one, the scenario that got rolled up was cornered, which is kind of terrible for us. So let me just bring up that scenario here. So just taking a look at the deployment, you guys can see that basically what ends up happening is you get Team A, the one player deploys right in the center, and then the other player gets to deploy anywhere along the edge. And then Team B, their primary deployment is this circle, and then their secondary deployment is this circle. So it's basically a race for the Team A support to get over into the center to help their Team A guys in the middle. And in case you guys don't know how it works with the doubles tournament, what you do is before the game begins, you roll off to see who is going to be the primary and who's going to be the secondary for the team. And so basically you and your partner just roll, and whoever rolls the highest is the primary and whoever rolls lower is the secondary. And of course, going into this scenario, we really wanted me to be the primary, just because I'm playing the undead. So obviously they're going to be a lot tankier than those easy to kill rangers. But of course, that's not what happened. So Dan ended up being the primary, and he had to deploy in the middle. And then I ended up being the secondary and had to deploy along the edges and scramble to get back in and help him out. So just going over how the victory points work for this scenario too. So whoever Team A is, they get points for keeping their leader alive. Team B gets points for killing the leader. Everything else for killing doesn't really matter. And then you get victory points for having more guys within 6 inches of the center. Well, in this case, we played as the center, but it's supposed to be within. There's supposed to be a big terrain piece in the middle, and it's supposed to be within 6 inches of that terrain piece. But that's not how we did it for this particular game, and you guys will see why with the way the terrain was set up and all of that. And then you get points for having a banner, and that's pretty much it. So our goal was essentially to keep Aragorn in the middle alive for the entire game. So let's have a look at our deployment and how that ended up. So, oh, sorry, before we go over that, let's just go over our list, which is, or our opponent's list, which is pretty hilarious. So we played Evan and Jordan. So Evan was the TO, and Jordan was, I believe he said Evan's brother. So we had a really great game against these guys, really fun. Spoiler alert, it was really short, just based on the scenario and the lists that we have here. So the one list was Radagast on the sleigh, which is right here. And then 2 eagles. And then there was Mounted Elrond, who I think ended up being about right here, with a bunch of Rivendell knights, and then 1 elf on foot. So obviously not a great matchup going into having to kill someone in the center and being completely surrounded. As far as starting things off, so this is our deployment. So we can see I'm down here, and basically I just have to rush as fast as I can to get back up to help Dan out. Sorry. So going into turn 1, we end up winning priority, which was pretty important. So this allowed for Dan to be able to reposition a little bit, and he did his best to try and move back and get out of range of all of this cavalry. But I mean, there's not really anywhere for him to go, since then he has to deal with these eagles coming in. So it just ended up being a lot of cavalry charges coming into his army, which, again, as good as the Rangers are, it's going to be hard for them to stand up to something like that. So what ended up happening for this first turn is 5 of the Rangers ended up dying to the initial cavalry charge, and then another 3 ended up getting knocked prone into the water from the eagles. So obviously not a great start. So not a great start, but there's not much we can do about that. That's just how the dice had it end up. And then I, of course, am running up as fast as I can. So this is going into round 2. So you can see what happened is one of the knights just got sent around over here to maybe hold up the undead a little bit. I called a march using the king's one and only might on the first round because I knew this wasn't going to go very well, and I needed to get in there and help out as quickly as possible. So yeah, so we can see here just basically more massacring as far as the Rangers go. Aragorn, though, ended up being a real Chad this game. So he ended up fighting Elrond one-on-one. Let's go here. So he is here, Elrond on horse. He wins, ends up killing the horse, doing no damage to Elrond, but Elrond fails his fallen rider check twice in a row, gets knocked prone. So that is pretty spectacular for us. I did forget to mention too, we won priority for this second round. And Elrond, who had 4 foresight points, ended up using 3 of the 4 to be able to go first. So this round actually ended up being quite significant for pretty much the rest, dictating the rest of the game because of those 2 incidents, because it meant that it wouldn't be easy for them to take priority from us another round. And then also Elrond not being on a horse and being knocked prone meant he was very ineffective. As far as everything else goes, it pretty much went as you would expect. So Eagles, they did some more killing, but actually what happened here is they won their combats, and the plan was to get them to barge and come up over here and get into the fight with Aragorn as well. But their barge rolls were like, for movement, were like 1 and 2, so they didn't have enough movement to get in there. So again, pretty lucky for us, and a pretty significant roll that went our way. Something else of note is 2 of the Rangers that ended up getting knocked down died from drowning, because apparently they don't know how to swim. And then one of them only lived for this round because he had to use a might to stop him from dying. Yeah, and here I am running as fast as I can to get up there, help him out. So we go into round 3. And I was actually able to get some cavalry charges in for this one. Sorry, I forgot to mention our opponent's won priority. So they moved basically all their guys closer, and I didn't touch on the terrain, but basically this section of water right here, we were playing as shallow, whereas all the rest of the river here was deep water. So that was pretty good for me in particular being the undead and being able to just cross the water however I wanted, whereas all the knights and the rest of the elves here had to kind of funnel their way through this way. But yeah, Elrond still knocked prone. I got a couple cavalry models in to help deny some cavalry charges, and the fights actually went our way. So the casualties were minimal thanks to that. But what did end up happening, so it's a little tough to see, but Radagast here is only in contact with one ranger, which he kills, and then he proceeds to, so he called a heroic move, or sorry, not a move, a combat, and then he decided to get out of the way over here because he didn't want to take the full brunt of the charge from all of my undead coming up this way. And then that one elf that was over here decided foolishly to cross the bridge and gets surrounded. And spoiler alert, he dies immediately. No problems there. So we can see this was the end of round 3. This is where everything is at this point. So we can see there's Aragorn, there's Elrond still knocked over, and then my cavalry. We actually ended up killing quite a few elves this turn, so much so that they were very close to breaking, and had to kind of play it safe going into the next round, which was really good for us. And so far, Aragorn has basically been fighting one-on-one with the knockdown Elrond. So they haven't been able to wound him yet, which means as far as their objectives go, they're having a tough time with it, whereas we are finally getting our reinforcements in. So yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. We can see final position of Radagast going into round 4. Okay, so this ends up being round 4 and the final round of the game. So we can see Radagast over here, so he basically came around like this. We won priority, which was huge, and we won it with a high enough roll that even with the 1 foresight point, they couldn't take it from us. So all of the charges were dictated by us. So what that meant is, in the last picture we saw, there was like this group of undead basically. They came up over this way and they charged the eagle that was standing right here. And then I was able to get actual charges with my cavalry models in. And then yeah, Radagast came over here to charge the bunch of wayward undead that were still down here. And basically what you see is we ended up killing a lot of models, including one-shotting the eagle. And then Radagast ended up killing a bunch of undead as well. But it wasn't enough to break us or anything like that. However, we broke them just based on how well the undead were faring in combats. And we rolled to see if the game would continue, and it didn't. So we ended up with a 4-round game, and we ended up with more than double the amount of models within 6 inches of the center. So the center of the board's like right here, and it's basically all of this is within 6 inches. And as you can see, there's just this big group of undead right here that pretty much doubles everything that's left of their army by itself. On top of Aragorn, who has taken no wounds. He didn't even have to roll any fate, so that was awesome. And then the 2 cav models. So it ended up being quite a resounding victory for us. When going into this, we were almost certain that we were going to lose just based on what we were facing and the scenario and how we had to set up for that. But yeah, it seemed like all of the luck kind of went our way for this one, which was really good for us. Really fun game. The final score ended up being 10-1. So the way that breaks down is Aragorn was alive with all 3 wounds. We broke them, and we had more than double the amount around the center, and there was a banner. My banner was still alive and kicking, and then they got 1 point for, so Radagast ended up killing enough undead to actually break us. So yeah, that's it for the tournament. So final scores, or our final breakdown was 1 pretty major loss, 1 minor win, and 1 major win. So if we look at the standings here, you can see that we actually came in 4th. There we are right there. So despite a pretty crummy start, we actually placed quite well, and our games were actually quite fun. You can see Taylor and Alex, so these are the guys that we played our first round. So that's some consolation at least. You know, we got stomped by the team that won the entire tournament. So just a couple final thoughts from us here. So after the game, Dan and I were talking with Evan with regards to this, and basically what we told him is that this could have been more fun if we didn't actually play the double scenarios, because in our mind, basically every single game we played, we were always separated, and we couldn't even play to the strengths of our armies, and it felt more like we were playing 4 separate armies were fighting. It didn't feel like it was 2 separate ones that were together that were fighting. So I definitely know that's something into consideration that Evan is going to take into consideration for next time, because it sounded like he felt kind of the same way. And like, I think if there was ever to be another doubles tournament, it would just end up being just the normal scenarios from the book with just 2 people per side piloting their armies. So it feels more like one cohesive army per side. But yeah, other than that, we had a really great time. Lots of fun. And if you guys like this, make sure to check out our other stuff. And thanks for watching. If you like what you're watching, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you feel like helping us out, check out our store at etsy.com/shop/Battlebond miniatures, where we sell a variety of 3D printed goodies like proxies for games like 40K or Middle-earth strategy battle game, as well as various sci-fi and fantasy terrain options. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you again soon.